Hello everyone, my name is Ritesh Gupta. I'm from AI Events Airline Information. Welcome to AI's new video. Today we are going to have a discussion about third-party mobile wallets as alternative form of payment and travel. I have with me two senior industry executives, both from California-based company Sitcon. It's a payment technology specialist and an omni-channel acquirer. I welcome Chuck Wang, who is Sitcon CEO and company founder. I also welcome Seth Friedman, who is head of payment partnerships and was recently a part of our webinar. So, hello, Chuck and Seth. How are you doing?
Very good.
Very good. Good morning or good evening.
Great to have you, Seth and Chuck. So, the company just expanded its operations in North America with an acquisition in Canada. It is further set to capitalize on the adoption of mobile devices and digital payments throughout the world. Seth, in one of our webinars, mentioned that the company is preparing for over 20 wallets in the next 12 months. So, the first question, how mobile wallets are gaining in popularity, especially considering the way certain trends are getting accelerated owing to the pandemic?
Yeah, this is Chuck. I can take this question. So first, thanks for the opportunities. And Citicon has been, we founded it about 5 years ago. It's really trying to build an infrastructure to enable the mobile wallet consumers to shop and pay, anywhere, anytime around the world. So regarding the question in terms of, we have seen the popularity of the mobile wallet in the last 5 years, and in our platform already integrate 20 different wallets. In this kind of pandemic, in fact, we see the trend, actually accelerated adoption of this, mobile wallet-based mobile payment, because just from the merchant and the consumer, they certainly demand a touchless-based payment, which is much safer and a secure options, right? So in fact, if you look at in terms of particularly the QR-based wallets, it's actually quite popular outside of the US, around the globe, already gained very strong popularity there. Even before the pandemic, if you look at the country in China, in other Asian countries, they already gained in terms of market share anywhere from 10% to even 30%. In terms of handle the payments by the consumer and the merchant side. So in the US, I think the situation is slightly different. So we have very strong, Apple Pay users. They are NFC based, but still, if you look at their in terms of the QR based wallets, we are going to see the acceleration of adoption in the US market in the next couple quarters. Just because in terms of, I think look at compared to outside of the world, outside of the US, the QR-based wallets is much easier to implement. And in fact, if you look at the consumer base, secondly, is QR-based wallets has much bigger audience compared to NFC-based like Apple Pay, right? PayPal, for example, has 150 million users. Versus Apple Pay only have 30 million users in the US.
Chuck, can you talk about these 20 mobile wallets which are in the pipeline for integration?
Sure. So in our platform, we have integrated primary, for actually the worldwide wallets. In Asian countries, like in China, we have Alipay, WeChat Pay. Both have over 700 million users. And in Southeast Asia, we integrated with, and also in Asia countries, Japan, Korea, like Kakao Pay, and also in the US, we just announced our partnership with PayPal and Venmo, and also in the European countries, we have Klarna. So, and we also have quite a bit of wallet partnership in the pipeline as well, including South America wallets as well as African wallets.
So Chuck, what kind of base Sitcon would cover once all these integrations are in place? China is a big market which serves over 1 billion users. But what's the kind of base we are looking at once all these mobile wallet integrations are in place?
Yeah, we primarily focus on enable the building the infrastructure for these wallet users. What we have seen is the wallet users right now they can pay, but their acceptance still have some gaps, right? For example, for PayPal and Venmo users, in fact they can shop online for many years, but in the US, but if you want to use PayPal Venmo anywhere in store, like you want to buy from a coffee shop or from grocery store, you cannot do it. So that's where we are going to focus on in the US and the European markets. And for a lot of Asian wallets, the situation, what Silicon, the infrastructure can help them is different because most of the Asian wallets, like China in Southeast Asia, they already cover well in the domestic countries, right? But their problem is in terms of if they want to, those kind of wallet users want to, shop either cross-border e-commerce or they want to travel to outside of the domestic countries, they found that they cannot use their wallets. So, so that's kind of the two primary segment we are going to focus on.
At the moment, travel companies are really struggling in terms of bookings, but when the recovery happens, it is important for all the travel e-commerce players to focus on frictionless experience. So what's your recommendation to airlines and other travel e-commerce players? Firstly, when we talk of their own digital assets, how should they look at mobile wallets integration?
Yeah, let me take this question, then Seth can jump in with more like a travel background. So what we have seen, there are two issues for the travel industry needed to solve when after the pandemic is over, right? So right now, I know everybody is still going through this tough period. Number one, once the travel pick up, you can see the travel industry is face a global consumer base. And a lot of travel websites, when they actually trying to finish the booking, handle the payment, the credit card is still the only payment option available on a lot of websites. But if you look at the, Asia, China, those kind of countries, the card penetration rate actually is pretty low, right? A lot of the audience actually have much higher penetration in terms of wallets. So adding the wallet support is very important. Otherwise, a lot of your consumers cannot pay you, right? So that's number one. Number two is, I think regarding your question, how the travel industry can really build a more like a seamless checkout experience for the consumers. So there are a lot of options which they can do work with the mobile wallets, because a mobile wallet can, like we see the example like in China, they can embed it, the whole like shopping and the checkout inside the wallets, right? Like in WeChat Pay, there are mini programs. Instead of you go to a separate website, you can launch the mini program inside the wallet.
Is Seth answering, adding something?
I'm here. So, what I would just say is at the highest level, from the standpoint of, as I'm a merchant thinking about, kind of what life looks like after pandemic, keep in mind at the end of the day, what a merchant should be thinking about is how are they consumer friendly, both to regain business, but also make things as convenient and easy for the consumer to pay. So, for example, if a consumer is very, very comfortable using WeChat Pay, but they reside in the United States, by all means, it makes sense for a merchant to enable that acceptance experience, as well as take advantage of the marketing assets that are available in the wallet ecology, because wallets are more than just payments. So if you look at WeChat and Alipay in particular, those platforms came not out of payment need, but out of different needs about either driving commerce or from creating a social experience where the whole glue of it is based upon completing a transaction. So if I'm a merchant, a travel merchant, I would be thinking about, how do I make that experience extremely friendly for the consumer? So for example, if you're a Chinese student living in Los Angeles and they want to fly from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, by all means, what's the downside of accepting WeChat Pay or Alipay or Kakao Pay. There is absolutely no downsides, only upside for the merchant. And then I would just add, from the standpoint of kind of, ultimately where the rubber hits the road, which is the payment experience, is when we look at our own information, we can see transaction approval rates that are in the high 90th percentile, which is extraordinary in a cross-border environment. And in addition, from just the guts of acceptance, for our products that we work with, these are very straightforward to accept. No complex rules, no PCI. You don't need a chargeback team to manage your business. And we really don't see much in the way of shopping cart abandonment, which is very common in an e-commerce world.
Mm-hmm. Chuck and Seth, before we delve into the ecosystems aspect of these third-party mobile wallets or even the concept of super apps, as far as the association with travel players is concerned, what would you term to be your biggest challenge at the moment, considering that acquirers are finding it tough to manage risk and liability equation? A travel merchant might go out of business without delivering the bought service. So what would you term as your biggest challenge when it comes to working with the travel industry?
I think honestly, from the travel industry standpoint, if I simplify it down, I don't think there's any lack of demand for alternative forms of payment, across all the different verticals, be it hotels or airlines. I think the biggest challenge right now is just a macroeconomic challenge. In terms of how we would approach, let's call it underwriting and risk. First of all, we're careful and we're cognizant of merchant risk, as are our network partners. So a network partner could come to us and say, look, I'm not comfortable with this particular merchant, but I am not aware that we've really ran into that to date. But what we also rarely see is the noise in the system, which is commonly referred to as chargebacks in the credit card world. We don't see a lot in the way of chargeback or risk control issues. So it appears that as a whole, once the economy comes back, we will be able to really meet the demands of airlines and other merchants for alternative payments. And as we will always have to think about risk, but I think we'll be smart about it, and as will our network partners.
Coming to the way certain mobile apps have shaped up from shopping perspective, they have turned into multi-utility apps. We know about Grab, Gojek, Meituan, WeChat. These are all multi-purpose apps, and travel players are acknowledging the fact that traditional touch points are very limited options now. They want entry into travel through these apps. So how do you what do you suggest to travel players when we talk of the concept of super apps, which has become so popular in Asia? How should travel players look at these super apps?
Yeah, so let me take that question. I think super app it will be a big trend around the world, right? So it's certainly gained strong popularity in Asia, like WeChat Pay, Alipay, as well as each countries. You can see in the Southeast Asia, like you say, the Grab, they want to become everything, the digital life about the consumers. In fact, even in the US, you are going to see like Facebook, all this one trying to be the super app as well. So it will be a trend because you have a limited space in your smartphone screen, right? So you cannot touch too many apps. As every industry, including travel industry, it certainly is it's greater challenge, and at the same time, it's big opportunities trying to leverage the stickiness of those super apps. I would say one of the there are many opportunities there, increase the touch point, but one of the I would say opportunities I would suggest to look at it is most of the super apps is become an open platform systems, right? So they open up their platform, allow you build your own destination inside the app. For example, as I mentioned in the beginning, there is like in the WeChat. There is a so-called mini program, and also, right, so which you can build your own mini program, launch there, then your consumer, your audience can stay with the super app, still browse your catalog and doing the shopping and completing the payment, because most of super app again already embedded their payment option inside the app, so it will become actually a very smooth transaction experience. Yeah.
Chuck, going beyond China, how are some of the super apps looking at the travel experience, right from dreaming phase to planning to actually buying the ticket to customer service? Is it really happening on the other super apps, since you are or other third-party mobile wallets, since you are in the process of working on integration with these apps? Are we going to look at the kind of features which are there on WeChat ecosystem, or Fliggy, which is part of Alipay or Alibaba, or even Meituan? Are we going to look at these shopping experience through flagship stores on other Asian apps, or even going beyond Asia in the near future?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, certainly each we are working with actually multiple so-called super app, right? So I cannot name the specific super app, but for example, I can give you some example is like a ride sharing apps. They want to become a super app as well. So you do a ride share, actually you can have a wallets there. In fact, you can also do in the shopping there. You can use that wallet once you reach. You can arrive at the destination. You can use that wallet, show the QR to make a payments when you want to purchase something. All those kind of experience. So there are a lot of super app there. And secondly, each super app, their touch point, they're all trying to build multiple touch point with the consumers. Example for the airline or travel industry is, for example, in terms of the boarding experience. A lot of super app talking about just the boarding pass can become a QR code embedded in the super app, so you don't need to carry additional things. Then you can board on the airplane. So there are a lot of opportunities. Yeah.
Chuck, are you also observing the trend of certain airline players becoming open platforms? We have seen in the case of AirAsia, Lufthansa has indicated that they are exploring the option of at least being mobility service provider, where anyone can fulfill their entire transportation needs and pay for them as well. Do you see the concept of ecosystem being run by airlines, opening up their platforms for even selling not only their own products but other products as well?
Well, I give one example. I think the sales will have much in-depth knowledge about the airlines in terms of how they open up their systems. But I do see the airline become very open as well. For example, one of the is the airlines like a loyalty points. In the past, the loyalty points is a very good way for airlines to keep their customers, but also reward their customers. But most of the points redemption is handled in a closed loop system. They can only redeem on the like a United. You can only redeem on the United website. But we see open up that kind of point system, so you can use your point in any stores, maybe inside the airport or even outside the airport. Right? We see that kind of project coming up. So once you can build that kind of ecosystem integrated with rest of the destinations. I think that possibility is there. Seth, you want to add more?
Sure. So, in the weeds of the airline industry is a whole desire to turn, what I call traditional GDS type sales environment into more of an open platform architecture. And that work, I think it's being led by IATA, is well underway. So airlines can effectively consider themselves merchandisers versus airlines. So airlines is tickets is the product underneath, the whole experience. So airlines are definitely trying to move in that direction. I think it's still young in their evolution, but clearly they're moving away from the traditional kind of ticket-based architecture through initiatives being led across the industry. But what I did want to say is, if I'm thinking as a marketer at an airline, I would be thinking more broadly about demand generation and user experience, beyond the flight. So, as we typically talk to merchants, be it, online or offline, customer present, customer not present merchants, what we always, begin the conversations is about how can we meet the demand of your customers and how can you help with demand generation. And at the end of the day, you can invest in payment, but our payment all fits together with a marketing strategy and a technology strategy. So even as we look at things like local language, you don't have to make your whole website local language or your whole mobile app, but can you do sort of miniature versions thereof, like an H5 page? Or if you do local language, our data says about a 30% higher conversion rate, versus if it's not in the local language of the consumer. So if I'm thinking about this more from a macro standpoint, airlines definitely need to be looking at their business as holistic payment platforms, including payment. But it is going to come back to how can they use tools and technology around demand generation and marketing activation.
So Chuck and Seth, just to conclude, what's your recommendation as far as preparing for third-party mobile wallets is concerned, be it for their own digital assets or to be part of ecosystems which are third-party mobile apps?
Yeah, let me jump in first. I think for the airlines, certainly recognize in terms of mobile apps, they certainly have their own mobile app. Makes sense because there are unique services they can offer, right? But in terms of the general trend, as we talked about in the past, in terms of the super apps, that's certainly gain a lot of popularities. It's also very important for airline to embed some key functionalities into those kind of super apps, become an integrated flow of those super apps. That will increase their touch point. So that will benefit for them.
Seth?
I have nothing to add on that point.
Thanks, Chuck and Seth, for your time. It was a pleasure interacting with you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Seth.
Okay, bye, Ritesh.